Hey guys, Coughing here, and I'm ready to show you this old Pokemon collection that I purchased. Someone reached out to me over last week sometime. They said, hey Steve, I have an old Pokemon collection. Put it in binder. I've never touched it. I remember I put them in the sleeves. Lots of them are great condition. Yada yada, yeah, all this other stuff. You just hear it all. I've heard it a billion times. And I was like, yeah, sure. He sent me some photos of what's in there. I was like, look, I can give you $600 without having to check all the conditions. If I receive them and they are way better condition than I think, I'll give you a little bit more. But otherwise, $600 is the price. So in here is a little bit of base set, a little bit of Neo sets. Overall, condition's pretty bad. I think I haven't bought English cards in a long time, and I have a setup where I do sell them through, but we'll go a little bit closer later on. I'll pull out all the holographic cards. The Gen 2 stuff, I always find that like Gen 2 cards, this is back a long time ago, I haven't bought English cards for a while, but Gen 2 cards are usually in better condition than Gen 1 cards, because obviously they're people, they start collecting, they buy a bunch of cards, and then they damage all their cards, and then they buy the Gen 2 sets, and they're like, oh, we can actually buy card sleeves, and we can buy folders, and I can display them, and I can take better care of them, and you know, all this other stuff starts happening. So usually in my experience, people have Gen 1 cards and they're all damaged, and then Gen 2 cards and whatever. So this binder collection, there was a binder. I'm not showing it because I threw it out like right away. The binder was riddled with rust and mold, and I'll show you some of the mold later on some cards, what to look for, but it was like genuinely disgusting. I didn't want it in my house anymore, and I was just like, look, I can't have this moldy, rusty binder in my stuff because it's bad. So all we're gonna do is I pulled out some of the Neo Holos. We'll start at the base set it's a little bit more impressive. So usually with an old collection, something like this, someone kept it in like their storage room, or maybe they put it in a box that goes in, you know, we call them sheds in Australia. I'm not sure what you call them in other parts of the world, but it's kind of like your outback tin foil house, I guess, that goes in the backyard. So whatever you call it, wherever you're from, people keep it in their basements. It's very common as well, and the humidity builds up there. So in this binder set, you can see right away, all through the front of this Squirtle card, this is mold on the Blastoise. Can we see some other ones? Yeah, so on the Ivysaur here, you can see a bit of mold, and I didn't see it in the photos because the photos I got were like pretty spread out and they're pretty far away, but I just know it's there. I've done this enough, and I've found these cards more than enough that I just know that it's going to be there, considering the collection is in Australia, and I price it accordingly. Obviously, not all the cards will have mold on them. This Jungle Pidgeot's actually not in that bad condition, but you know, what usually happens is people store their cards in a binder upright, and then dirt goes in through the top, and then the dirt plus humidity creates stickiness on the card, and like forms onto because it's just paper, right? So it just forms onto the card and makes it a lot worse condition. Sorry. Makes it a lot worse condition, and I'm not sure if we can see this, but you know, you can see all these little spots all over the cards, and that's just dirt from over the years going in through the sleeve and settling. So, I mean, we can see here, this is dirt / mold. I really do think this is like mold. Maybe it is dirt. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but you know, generally that is quite disgusting. I have to wash my hands thoroughly after this. So yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's not the end of the world to get like a rare card and it has damage like this, but I would always rather not have dirt stuck to the cards. So the collection I paid $600 for, and it's sight unseen, but knowing how much like Charizard goes for in any condition, hopefully it's not really bad. You know, I got a few other good ones. There was like an Umbreon, this is an Umbreon just over here. I generally price it all up, and like worst case scenario, 600, I can sell it, I can get my money back. You know, obviously when you're a store, you have to pay fees, you have to pay this, it takes time. So you can't really just like pay them what you're going to sell it for and then hope that they're all like gem, because obviously year 2000, it's not going to be gem. It's 23 years ago. So base set Blastoise, unfortunately, or base 2, it's got a little bit of a dent at the bottom. We'll have a look at the big fire lizard. It's been a while since I've had an English base set Charizard. Still pretty nostalgic, still pretty cool. But the condition isn't that bad. I mean, if anyone who's never really dealt with like Pokemon grading or Pokemon, condition checking or anything to do with Pokemon where like you have to like assess the condition of the card, you would look at this and you'd think it's pretty good. But overall, this is pretty rough, and you see here it's got a bit of dirt. It'll probably rub off. Sorry about that, someone's at my door. So overall, this condition of this card, it's not terrible for a 24-year-old Charizard. I mean, this card's almost as old as me. That's kind of crazy. But we got some scratches. I would probably put this as played. Maybe light play, but, with this dirt here, stuff like that, maybe you'd be able to scratch something like that off. Like, I really don't care too much about the condition of this card. It will just be sold as is. But, yeah, this is the kind of reality of buying an older collection where, the people say, I put them in sleeves and I put them in the folder and I've never touched them and never this. You're a kid when you got them. It's perfectly fine if they're damaged. I mean, no one is expecting everyone to have like crazy condition cards. These are supposed to be enjoyed and played with. I mean, it's just how it is. This is why, like, this Raichu is absolutely destroyed. And then this is why these cards are expensive when the condition is good, because they're not easy to get. It's just plain and simple. They're not easy to get in good condition because they were played with and destroyed. And maybe there are some here. The person did tell me, like, look, maybe he's like, I was too scared to take them out of the sleeves because I didn't want to touch them. That's perfectly fine. I mean, this base set 2 Nidoking's in great condition, considering how long it is. I mean, it has the same dirt that all the other cards have. It's perfectly fine. So, it's just, if you do get approached by someone who wants to sell you their collection, first of all, don't lowball them, because that's just rude. Don't offer them $50 or whatever and try to like make a deal just because you have like a grind set mindset and the only way you can get ahead is by like kind of taking advantage of people. So definitely don't do that. Always try to give them a fair range. My range that I gave this person was $600 to $1,000. I was like, realistically, that's the best. You could probably sell it on eBay and probably get a little bit more, but then you'd have to deal with shipping and fees and canceled buyers and potential scams, and I laid it out to them. These days, I don't really want to make purchases like this. Like, I can sell on seller cards, but I'd rather just buy stuff I like, which is what I always. Oh, this is a really good example. This is a base set Poliwrath, and we got a whole bunch of gunk on the back, and this card is well loved. So I don't generally like to do this, but he was a nice guy, and it's just $600, and I'll probably just I'll unsell it and I'll get my $600 back within the month, and it helps out another person who once upon a time liked Pokemon, very damaged base set Machamp. So I just wanted to just show my thoughts, reasonings why you should and shouldn't buy this sort of stuff. There is base set. There's so many errors in the base set. Like, they got the Krabby with the scratch foil, and I'm always looking for like holo shift errors, and I'm always looking for like the fossil non-holos that have 1999 to 2000, and there's like the stained Haunter if it was holo, and there's so many things you're always looking for. It really brings back memories, because once upon a time in 2015 to around 2018, 19, I only dealt with English WotC cards. I did not deal with any other set. It's honestly crazy to think that right now I might have like 2 English cards for sale and like 1 English card in my collection. And back in the day, there was a time where I had over 30,000 WotC cards listed for sale on my store, and I had every set, and I had an awesome system and all this other stuff. And now I'm a shell of my former self. No. So yeah, people ask me, why do I only do Japanese? It's just because I just did English. I've sold every... I've pretty... if I can remember, there's some cards I never really got a hand on. Some Skyridge Crystals. I've never had a base set first edition Charizard. I've never had a few... I've had every card from every set, except for a few Crystals, Crystal Charizard, and first edition base set Charizard. But every other, like, Wizards of the Coast, up until Nintendo took over, I have every card. So I didn't. No, I don't have every card. I had every card go through my hands for sale, and that was what was exciting back then for me. People might not think it's exciting now, but for me, look at this. We've got this Snorlax, big crease in the middle. This is just the kind of stuff to expect, and you can't really get upset. The people selling this stuff, they don't know, so that's why you have to give them the first offer, should be your final offer, and you just give them the fairest one. If you want to ask them for more like questions, pictures, you're like, look, can you send me photos of this, send me photos on that, it's alright. But like I generally don't like to buy. I say this to like probably 10-20 people a week. They say, hey, I got an old Pokemon collection I don't want, and do you want to buy it? And it's like, look, I don't like buying cards that people don't want. And you know, that doesn't make sense to the people who are just trying to sell me their junk that they just had in a box, and it's junk to them but not junk to me because I love cards. But I don't want to buy cards that you don't want anymore. I like to buy like cards and collections of collectors, people that cherish their stuff, have it sorted well, they know the conditions, the transaction can be a lot easier, you know what you're supposed to expect. So, you know, it's just, you can get a lot of value trying to find and snipe random deals. And now you can see here the bottom of some of these sleeves that are attached. This was what the binder was like all over. You can see just how bad this is. I don't even know what's going on here. Let's have a look. He's got a bunch of unknowns that he randomly put in. Ultra Pro Display Series. I'm sure this Ultra Pro top loader is 20 years old, and that is vintage. I mean, I might try and find if someone wants this just for like a display. That's actually crazy. You can't come across this very often. Even with for some reason they top loaded like the thing that comes in the top loader packs. It's got a bunch of unknowns and then a bunch of coins you get from the theme decks. I mean, it's cool, you know, looking at old cards again, but when you're buying old collections, I've told you what you're supposed to expect, and it's just, be realistic. Don't be upset at the person selling it to you, unless they're saying like, well, actually, no, it doesn't actually matter what they say, because what they say doesn't matter. What they say does not matter. I mean, some cards from this guy were in good condition. It's just not every single one is like gem mint, because obviously everyone wants to be the master flipper and make a lot of money, but the reality is all these old cards, it's very hard to find. If you want to buy mint ones, you have to pay the market price. That's just how it is. If you want to take chances on lots, collections here and there, it might pay off. Look, there's someone wins the lottery every time it goes up. Well, not every time, but most of the time someone wins the lottery. I mean, but there's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 million people playing. So, you know, you only hear about when people win the lottery. You don't hear like the 1 million or 2 million stories of people who put in $100 and didn't get anything. So it's not always perfect buying old collections. This is actually quite a nice condition Gengar. So it is good that he did have some of these in sleeves. The sleeves just took all the brunt of the card damage. So, you know, overall, $600, I'm happy to pay that. I will be able to get my $600 back in about a month. It's not a crazy thing for me. It's like on the kind of volume that I have, $600 doesn't really like make or break me. But if this is someone who had a lot less, let's say you only had $600 to spend for that 1 month in your like reselling or your collection, because stuff like this, like you could buy this binder and let's say you just want to keep the Umbreon, so you put in all the effort to sell the rest of the cards, make your $600 back, and you keep the Umbreon. That's the kind of stuff that I think people should be doing so they can get their collection at a lower price than it's actually valued at, so they can feel good about it, make progression, and generally collect for cheaper. But if you have a less amount of money and you're hoping every single one of these cards is going to be gem or like mint, and it doesn't come mint, you probably should not buy things like this. If you have a realistic expectation of like, hey, I want to buy this collection so I can get this Umbreon, this is probably the nicest condition card in the whole binder, and it's probably like a PSA 7 or 8, and that's not too bad for 20 years in this guy's binder. So we'll find a nice home for this Umbreon, but I think being realistic is all I'm trying to say. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.